Hello, Local Perspectives class. It's week 4, and I put together a talk yesterday using a classroom like I've done on some of the other uh, little talks, and sent it up to YouTube yesterday. And today I get the word that it didn't go through. Um, so then I tried to play around with it, and all I did was destroy the video I made. So I'm redoing that and trying to get it put up in time for you to be able to get it this weekend. So please forgive me for that. I'll make reference to a handout that I'm going to put up on the general discussion part of our website, and it just has the information that I'm going to be talking from today. And what you'll notice in here is something that looks like home plate from playing baseball, and it's a pentagon. It's got 5 sides, 5 points, and each one of those are a point of something that will help you in understanding other cultures. And what I mean by that is, if you were to try and understand what it's like to be a part of this culture, the group that you're trying to reach out to, they're different from you, and you want to understand them. Are there keys that will unlock your way into greater understanding? And what this talk is to lay out for you is that these 5 areas will help you because they will help you learn how to ask questions in the right areas. What would you need to know in order to understand the other culture? Well, you could ask all kinds of things from what do they think about the weather? What do they think about world events? What do they think about sports? What do they think about the economy? You could ask them questions in a million different directions. And yet, what this lesson has to say is if you pay attention to 5 specific areas and you can ask questions there or keep your eyes open and just take note that you just learned something about this other culture, it will be helpful to you almost as though they were handing you the keys to their culture. So let me begin with a little understanding about them. We start off with the first one about family. And this is inviting you to have a conversation with the folks from another culture and try to understand what their family life was like. Do they like each other? Do they want to go out on vacation together? Do they stay away from each other? Do they only get together for critical events, or has it been 20 years since they've seen each other? How enmeshed or how separated are they within their family? The more people that you run into from the other culture who tell you the same thing, the more you begin to pick up clues about the other culture. In some places around the world, the family structure is more like a dictatorship. Dad calls the shots. And so if you were to ask questions about, well, how did this decision get made, or what made it possible for that to happen, there'll often be some signal or discussion, something that will point back to the point that dad makes the decisions. Or in other cultures, mom makes the decisions. And in others, it's more of a democracy. And still others, they're dysfunctional. Nobody makes any decisions. Everybody raises themselves, makes their own way, and it's just a free-for-all. But it helps you understand more about what family life is like and what they think and feel about those things related to family. The next area has to do with religion. What faith do they have? That can be fairly easy to determine. But more to the point, how does that impact their lives? How does that inform them about the world around them? What does that say about if there's a change? If there's a change, do they have a way of incorporating that, or does it become a threat to their religious background, and they've got to stop that because they can't stand to have their religion questioned? Where are they with all of those things? You might remember in the interview with Samuel Wong from Taiwan, he was from the Hakka tribe, He was not from mainland China. And as Hakka, they had their own ancestor worship practices. And when he became a Christian, the family kicked him out of the family. They disowned him because it was a disgrace to them that he would become a Christian, because it meant that there would be a change to their ancestor worship. And they couldn't hardly stand that. For other people, if they're non-religious, it doesn't matter to them as long as nobody starts shoving beliefs down their throats. Now, I was on a plane one time, and there were two businessmen sitting on the other side of the aisle. Nicely dressed, suits. You could tell they were bankers or some sort of professionals, probably educated. They were from India, Hindu background, and they didn't look like the traditional garb and the way that you see them portrayed coming out of India. They were very modern men. It surprised me that when they pulled out their cell phones and they turned on the picture on their screen, there was a picture of their leading Hindu god. So even though they have all of this modern background, they still had roots that went back to their Hindu faith, and that informed the way they lived their lives. So what does that look like? Can they become a Christian and nobody gets upset about that? But if they try to only be a Christian and not be Muslim, not to be Hindu, not to be Buddhist or something else, what does that do to their lives? What kind of threat is there upon them? That helps you understand about religion. The next area has to do with finances. And with finances, we're talking about, what do they think about money and possessions? Can they go into debt? Are they way over their heads in debt? Do they not believe in debt and they would never charge up a penny for any purchase? Others, they're maybe from a background where they do a lot of bartering. I'll give you this and you give me that. And this value is exchanged back and forth that doesn't even go through the taxes. So what do they do with money? Can money be inherited or passed down from a parent to a daughter? Or does the money only go to the male heirs? What happens if someone becomes fairly wealthy because they've traveled abroad and they've been employed well? Is there an expectation that they will send home a good bit of that money? I can tell you of cultures where they make decent money in America, but they live very frugally because of the expectation to send money back home. And so questions that deal with finances help you understand what they value, how they handle things, and you have another key to their culture. The fifth one has to do with education. There's a young man that I'm thinking of. He was leaving home and going to the other side of the country. The last thing his father told him before he got on the plane was, now don't you come home with any of those ideas from out on the other side of the country. I want you to come back here just like you left here. And that was an invitation to avoid education. Don't learn anything new. Only learn what I've been telling you. Only what we in our group will tell you. Whereas other people from other cultures, they so much embrace education that they spend all of their time from when they learn to read and write all the way through to where they can take their education and turn that into income. And that's the only way they get into college, is if they qualify to get in. And so education becomes so important. Can girls be educated? What happens with the family expectations there? And finally, having to do with politics. Not just necessarily the government, but how they see things when it comes to decision making. How much of a group effort is it? How much of it is the leader of the group who makes the decision for the group? I can think of cultures where it's very much a papa makes all the decisions kind of society. And and not just in a family setting, but within the culture. What the mayor says goes. What the king says goes. So they pay attention to the politics. For some, they may be in cultures where they look up to their political class leaders because those leaders make all the decisions, but the people don't like them very much because they think the leaders make the wrong decisions. So, politics, what makes them uh, happy, sad, hopeful, discouraged when it comes to politics? In those 5 areas, you are given the keys to understanding a culture. You can either quiz them when you try to visit with people from that other culture, but if you quiz them, they'll feel the pressure of that and may not give you the answers. Maybe they'll just run away. If you do it more conversationally, you may get further. Well, how did you come to do that? What's it like here and there? And it's more conversational rather than running through, your top 100 questions. Or if you can't say much of anything because you don't know the language, it's really when you are looking through your own eyes and you're watching and observing, what do those eyes tell you that they think about family and economics and politics and religion and education? In those 5 areas, you begin to get into the other culture and to their mindset. There's still the been here and come here kind of problem that you'll run into, like Rawson talks about with the cultural iceberg, that whatever you see on top of the ocean is only a part of what's really there, and you may never really get to where you understand what's way down deep in a culture, even if you've been there for a long time, because when they're born into it, they don't even have to think about it. They understand this is how things are. They get it by osmosis. It's just part of them. They're the been heres. The come heres are people like you or me. When we go into another culture, we learn, we interact, all the different things to become involved with them, and we will never fully get it because we're not been heres, we're come heres, sort of like Johnny come latelys. But as people open their hearts and begin to share their dissatisfaction with the way that they're living, the kind of lifestyle that is expected of them with their education or their religion or whatever, those become openings to share the gospel. And as that happens, your communications are not just questions and answers, not even just conversations. They become opportunities to share the gospel. When that happens, things get really interesting. See you next time on Local Perspective.